Hello and welcome everybody to DIY HiFi. Today I am joined by a legend of DIY audio, Mr. Nelson Pass, who, as you well know, or you should well know, that is one of the patrons on DIY Audio.com forums, where he shares his designs, and you can also find them on PassDIY.com. Welcome, Mr. Pass. It's an honor to have you here with me today.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I have bothered you long enough for you to agree to this, because I would love to ask you some questions about designing power amplifiers, especially the output stages, which are your kingdom, of course. But let's start slowly. And can you share with us what's the newest stuff at your DIY part of your life?
The newest stuff. Well, let's see. Are you familiar already with the Zenductor, which was at the Burning Amp Festival?
Oh, I think I missed that.
Let's see. I believe I have one laying around here. This is... Oh, just a moment. Well, it's elsewhere, but the Zenductor was an amplifier circuit that originally was developed or put together by my friend Mike Rothacker, who is a very avid DIY aficionado and also a pretty talented designer in his own right. And it consisted of a single transistor driving an inductor, which was a relatively inexpensive piece, which is in a single-ended circuit, which actually delivered quite good performance off of a little switching power supply, the kind that you just plug into the wall. Delivered 5 watts of single-ended Class A, and was the subject of the Burning Amp Festival this last October, where we actually had what we call the Amp Camp, which is a group of people who come together and build these projects. And we had, I think, 25 pair or something like that successfully built, I might add. And people took them home and presumably are happy. Otherwise, I probably would have heard about it. But it's, again, a very simple circuit, basically a single power transistor on a little heatsink. Unfortunately, the only pair that I have are upstairs. I would have to I could take a break and go get them, but I have something else that is related to that. After that successful event, I did a circuit that is similar in context, in design to that. What you see is here a input for power and some filtering and some little transistors that are used for buffering, and a transformer which steps up the voltage so that it has some voltage gain. And then on each side, you see an array of transistors.
I know what it is.
You signal JFETs. Okay, I think what we got here, we have a total of 256 of them. And then they drive this inductor right here, which is a 35 millihenry inductor, is single-ended. And this particular version puts out 10 watts. But mostly, what's partly unique about it is this.
Yeah.
You may be familiar with a project that I did many years ago. It's down. Called The Beast of 1,000 JFETs.
Yes, that was my first thought.
Which I named after a Roger Corman movie. Roger Corman being one of my very favorite directors. I grew up on Roger Corman movies. And the beast of 1,000 JPETs, which is here, but no, actually, it's not out here. Stuff is everywhere. It was simply a balanced follower. In fact, there were two of them, and they had 1,000 little power transistors like this the side, and they did 30 watts a channel. It still does, actually. In fact, it's still one of my very favorite amplifiers. And more recently, because I have actually quite large inventory of these parts, I decided to revisit the beast in smaller versions that would be suitable for DIY construction. So in this case, for example, I've got, here's an example of a board. This one holds, let's see, what is it? I think it's 250, let's see, what's it say? Well, I think it's 256 JPETs in arrays. And these are all matched. They all pretty much operate in parallel. And they're something like that is typically capable of about 25 watts or so in Class A. These are run single-ended Class A, and they're powered by desktop regulated power supplies, and they operate without feedback. They perform quite well. They sound exquisite. That's the very latest thing that I have been playing with. And then any other projects that I've done more recently are pretty much on display at DIY Audio. It's not hard to go there and take a look at them.
Yes, I saw that. I mean, the Beast of Thousands Thread, it was always something I really liked reading about, because it was just a statement, because I can, and I just love it.
That's partly the case. Now, the original beasts were made with parts that are now so precious that it would not be practical to do. And those were the Toshiba JPETs, the two K170 and 74s, which have not been made for quite a long time. And so it's not practical to ask DIYers to go out and try to procure 1,000 of those pieces. And if they did, it would cost them a small fortune.
Yeah, exactly.
These parts, however, these are J113s, which are actually quite inexpensive. And although I have to pay my son to test them and select them and things like that, but they still are, I don't know, 1/20th the price. So this is much more practical. Not quite the performance of those two Toshiba parts, but doable. And the thing about that is there's just a certain charm to the performance sonically of these little transistors when you put them in armies. And so I've actually come back to that after all these years. The original beast now is maybe 20 years old. It goes back quite a long time. And by the way, I recently just put a little bit of work into it and got it hooked back up to speakers. Oh, they're wonderful. They're as good as I remember, maybe better. And so that stimulated me to, put a little more work into that. So this is a version of this inductor, which had a single TO3P and a little board mount heatsink, which put out, in that case, a little over 5 watts. And this one is a little more extravagant. It does 10 watts, which is quite a test for that inductor, which is made by Triad, and it only costs about $15. So it's really not horribly expensive to tackle something like this, and I'm very tempted to get a project out for DIY. People will have to learn how to solder tons of little transistors in a row neatly. In fact, I think a practice board with some practice FETs so they can get the hang of it before they tackle the one that's supposed to look good. There is a technique to it, and it takes a long time to do it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's only fair that I share what I'm working on lately, so I think you will already know this one.
Well, maybe. Oh, wait a minute. I think you showed me this previously. Yes.
Yeah, it's Wayne's preamp. It's absolutely lovely. I have it finished. It sounds amazing. I made it for my dad, and he just loves it. Runs it with, I think those are person op amps, the V6 something.
Yes.
He absolutely loves this, but curiously enough, with stock op amps, it also sounds amazing. So I finished this. I'm still struggling with a little bit of hum in my system, but I'm 99% solid that it's not the preamplifier, but it is the electrical setup I have. It's probably because my amplifier doesn't have a grounding pin. It's a Marantz. But I'm still working on figuring this one out. But about soldering, I actually did a video about how to solder the 2SK 209s in the Perl 3.
All right.
Yeah, Jason, I think Jason pinned it in the original post. So yes, soldering is something people are struggling still.
Me, I don't even touch surface mount. These glasses are not powerful enough to do that. And I don't, a lot of things that are out there technologically are just not interesting to me. I'm happy with the old ways of doing things. Now, I should point out too, if you don't already know, that anything that resembles a preamp out of us is Wayne's worth.
Yes, I know that.
And he's absolutely terrific. He's terrific in all the areas that I am not. And then I managed to fill in some of the areas where he is not, and he works out really quite well. He's actually moved out here and is my neighbor at Sea Ranch. And so in fact, he dropped by yesterday and, was chatting one. And he's found a power surface mount part that he brought some samples with that. And the reason that he brought them to me is that they're actually big enough that I can solder them. They're little power transistors. They don't have a heat sink, but you can press a heat sink on them. But the leads, the little tabs, are actually big enough for me to solder. So that's he's expecting that I'll play with that.
I see. I mean, Wayne's great. I also have WHAMMY. It's amazing. I think it even beats commercial products at the same price. And I did review it on our website where we do reviews with my friends. We have like a project we're working on. And a funny story about Wayne. I was Googling Perl 2 like years ago. And I've seen it on your website on PassDIY, and I inquired about getting the PCB. And I got a message back from Wayne that, we only have a kit. It's $200 or something like that. I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks for letting me know. That I'm just looking around. Maybe I'll come back to you later when I have some extra cash or something. And he was like, okay, I will send it to you. I'm like,
sure.
Why would you do that? But okay, I went with it. He did send it, and in a return, because I felt obliged because he was so nice to me, I did send him something in return, and I hope that he liked it and that he still has it. I was working in a vinyl store at the time, and we were having the record store day. And it was the first record store day to feature a Polish Polish album. And it was by a very renowned Polish jazz player, Komeda. It was the album called Astigmatic, and I got one of those. I stood in the queue and everything. I got this record and I sent it to him. I say thank you. So
I'm sure he appreciated it.
I like to think that. Okay, so
Wayne is multi-talented. I mean, he's a pilot. He can work on his own aircraft. He just does a lot of things, and he does them all extremely well. So I'm very fortunate to. Actually, did you ever hear the story about how Wayne got his employment back at Threshold?
Wizard's assistant.
Oh yes,
yes, I did. Did my homework.
The best part of the ad was it said, "No work, all play, no work, high pay, all glory." And Wayne came by the factory, and I wasn't there, but he dropped off an amplifier that he had made. And so he got hired instantly. And it's been a wonderful partnership ever since. And I have other people as partners too who are extremely talented. And they are, well, at this point, they're all involved with the company one way or another.
That's great.
And at this point,
That's really
quite a few years ago, because the company was over 30 years old, something like that.
that's a long time. That's impressive that you can stay on the market like relevant for so long and also have another company that is also relevant on the market for so many years. I have to say, I truly admire you guys.
Well, you know what happens is that when I was at Threshold, I felt the need to do something on the side for entertainment, and it turned into a thing. And I was out of Threshold, and I left Threshold, and I had a garage, and so I began building amplifiers, and it quickly turned into something where they were selling, and I needed people, and I enlisted people like Wayne and a couple other people. And I hired most of my neighbors. You can imagine. That grew and grew as Pass Labs, and finally it became successful enough that it had to be off in a real commercial zone, and it had a larger group of people than I could fit in my garage and space. So we put it off into a commercial area, and it was like run like a real company. I mean, or it looked more like a real company instead of people in a very large garage. So after the company was moved out and into a commercial space, I found myself with all this space. So I started building more stuff separately just for myself. And this time I said, well, I'm going to do something that isn't going to be commercial. And I called it First Watt. And I was just going to do anything I wanted. And of course, it turned into a commercial operation selling amplifiers, and eventually became sufficiently successful that I had to have people and space. And I just turned it over to Pass Labs.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just a subsidiary of Pass Labs.
I see.
Well, then here I am now, building stuff like this in my garage. Only I've moved it out to the coast where I have a nice house just off the water, and I can and I can look at all the sea life that are around and walk the trails and so on. So this one, I swear, is not going to be another company, but I've been known to be wrong before.
So basically, DIY is your new first what?
Well, that's how I got started. You know, when I was 15, I was 15 and a half, and I had a driver's permit, and I used that to go to an outfit that sold parts and stuff. Actually, my father was in the aircraft business, and these guys sold parts and stuff to him. So I went there. Oh, you can buy stuff, and one of the there was a pair of loudspeaker drivers that were nice and cheap, full range drivers. This was back in let's see, I was 15, so that was about 19. Well, let's see, it would have been about 1966. I was just starting high school, and so I built some cardboard boxes for my enclosures and installed them in the boxes, and I bought a Radio Shack power amplifier for $29, and I bought a Gerard turntable for $50, and I had a system that ran, and that got me started, you know. And so then I made some wooden boxes for the drivers, and then I added a tweeter, then I modified the amplifier, and it just goes on and on and on. Then I landed at college, where I fell in with a bunch of people who were very serious about their hi-fi equipment. They had JBLs and Macintosh and dual turntables. This would have been 1969.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. After that, it became the thing that I do when I didn't have to be doing something else.
I mean, that's actually quite a coincidence because I started my audio journey at 15 too.
Well, that's for me is the Beatles had just shown up. Rock and roll was starting to starting to occur.
Oh, with me, it was the rise of MP3 players.
Ah,
Yeah, the first ones which had like 128 megabits of memory on board, and were like the size only you could put like couple of songs really. And I remember I found on my uncle's farm, the one I told you in the beginning, I found a 78 series regulator. And I was so curious what it is. My dad thought it's a transistor. So I started Googling, what is a transistor? Because I already had the access to the internet. So what is a transistor? What is electronics? And it went on and on and on. And one of the first circuits, the first circuit I built was a DIY kit from a Polish company called Jabel. It was just a two-channel TDA 2030 amplifier. And it didn't work. But, I tried again and again, and things started working. Which was also the time I was just, 18. So it was quite interesting. Just trying to fit being a nerd into my lifestyle, but I guess it turned out pretty well. And yeah, I ended up here.
and here you are.
And here I am, exactly. But it's fun, and I spent so much time, and so many people helped me along the way on the forums that it kind of prompted me to create this channel to kind of share the love,
Well, I always say, DIYers are the happiest audiophiles I know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Even when it doesn't sound so good, they get a lot of satisfaction and out of building things and learning about them and having some progress. The next project is always better than the last one, and so on.
Absolutely.
I think that's the biggest thing about DIY audio is that you get to enjoy it on two levels altogether. Well, what can I say? It's been 50 something years for me.